Islam. I want to give praise and worship to the great God Allah. I want to give high honors to my prophet, beloved prophet, Noble Drew Ali. I want to give honors to all things Moorish American. I want to give honors to all nations, all creeds, all life of humanity. I am S. Marshall, also AKA known as Smell. I want to just continue off another video I did about the harlot. So I guess this may be part two. And so on the part one, we talked about how the harlot, we came out of our Holy Quran of Moorish American, Moorish American, but Moorish Science Temple of America, chapter 20, which was a message to the young men about the harlot. And we talked about some of the characteristics of the harlot and some of those things that young men should be aware of. But also, there are many degrees about the harlot. And that's what I want to talk and get into a little bit about the type or the spirit behind the harlot. What is it about the harlot that can be cause such danger, can cause such confusion, can cause death and destruction, wickedness in the land, right? So one thing we want to just point out, the spirit behind a harlot is wantonness, covetousness, greed, right? It's an addiction that, an addictive type activity that one must have something. Now, of course, we're talking about it on aspects of things that are detrimental to the growth of the spirit, man. But everything, especially in the manifested earth, has good and evil attached to it. So just because you have a desire for something doesn't mean, or have a great want for something, doesn't mean that that want cannot be good. You can have a great desire to do something great or good, all the virtues of divine nature of our great God Allah, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. However, coming from the carnal sense, right, there are many, many things that man in his lower self, that out of greed, that he will compromise his spiritual self to obtain those things and never be satisfied, right? So we want to look at that a little bit about the harlot, the spirit behind the harlot, which is greed, right? So doing that, I'm going to use the definitions, the simple definitions that anyone can go online and look up about harlot. And we're going to substitute the word greed for sexuality or sexual type references about harlotry. So one, a harlot, it says, is a prostitute or sexual promiscuous woman. That's put in, all right, a prostitute or greedy promiscuous person, all right? We could say woman, but just say person. So like, just promiscuous. They're here and there, chasing here, whatever it is, just to get that, satisfy that greed. That's the spirit of harlotry, right? Prostitute, a person who engaged in sexual intercourse and other sex acts for money, sex work. They're substituted again. A person who engaged in greedful or covetousness intercourses or actions or interactions with for acts or for other greed acts for money, right? Greed for money. Let's go into promiscuous, characterized by or involving indiscriminate mingling or associated, especially having sexual relations with a number of partners on casual basis. Let's do this. Characterized by or involving indiscriminate mingling or association, especially having greedful relationships or relationships with a number of partners casually because of greed or wantingness or covetousness that you just gotta have. You see all over the way. So this also goes in about idolatry, right? Idolatry, worshiping other gods, worshiping other things outside what your forefathers and foremothers, divine creeds and principles established many decades, eons ago. And so you mingle with all different other nations, you mingle with all different other conceptions because you want something they have, or you want that material thing. That is the spirit of harlotry, right? And so we want to note, right, that the things that we desire, the things that we are craving for or trying to accomplish, are we ourselves, are we dealing with a spirit of harlotry within ourselves? There's different levels. Some may have it more than others. Some may have less revealing acts of behavior that reveal that type of greed. But all of us on many levels deal with things that we are trying to pursue, and the thought comes about of how can we get that thing that we really want. So are you willing to do certain things that go against your spiritual and growth and development to get that very thing that you want? If you are, that's the spirit of harlotry, right? That's the energy of harlotry. That's the act of playing the harlot, right? So in the Moorish Science Temple of America, the prophet taught us is that we have to put a circle around those lower self cravings, those lower self things. So the thought may come, but your higher self and what you're building spiritually and through your prayers and through your studies and through your striving for purity, right? You could put a circle around that thought and counsel that thought and correct that thought and put that behavior to rest, right? Because the harlot ultimately gives you this, as our scripture says, this shiny apple, but when you bite into it, it's bitter, it's rotten to the core. So I want to go as well into the Holy Bible, or known as the Holy Bible, that Christians often reference. And I want to talk about one of the first locations that the word harlot comes up, right? And that's in the book of Genesis. I believe it's 34 and chapter 34 and 31. And there's a story going on there in chapter 34 about really a Moor. I would say a Moor, Canaanite, Havite, Shechem, who sees a daughter of Jacob. Did I get her name? I don't have all the scriptures in front of me, but I think it's Dinah is her name. And he sees her and he wants her, according to the scripture. And so he takes her, and the scripture, in that scripture, says he defiles her, meaning, to me, that would mean like he raped or he took advantage of her or some sort, according to the scripture, right? And then after doing so, though, he fell in love with her, and he went to his father and asked that he would go to Jacob to ask for her to be his wife. Now, those behaviors don't really all match. You have to be careful sometimes when you're reading the King James Version of the Bible, not translation, but version. But let's go with it, right? So he goes to Jacob and asks for Dinah to be his wife, and the father of Shechem asked that, and Jacob is aware, have been made known to him, that the acts of Shechem allegedly, defiled his daughter. So back then, one of the key essence of families becoming one nation or one people, they did this through marriage. So marriage was, we're talking like two nations coming together when marriages are taking place. So it's a really big thing, right? It's not so casual as it is today. So with that being said, Canaanites were massive, and according to the scripture, they were a larger number. So Jacob was, the scripture kind of leans that Jacob was aware of this, and so he consented to the marriage, but the sons wasn't having it, right? So the sons, they retaliated on Shechem's folks, slain them, slaughtered them, and it was a mass killing, and they took Dinah back with them. But not only did they take Dinah, but they took Shechem's people's wives, they took their goats, they took other possessions, and so forth. And Jacob was very worried, concerned about that, because he knew they were a bigger nation, a larger nation, and he felt that his sons have just declared war, and it would be an end to his family. But the sons say, and this is where the harlot comes all in play. The sons say, after all that concern, say, well, would you allow, what it say, should Shechem deal with our sister as with a harlot? That was a question to Jacob. And so this is referencing, even though Genesis is the first book, but is not necessarily the first events that's happening in the timeline. So you have to go back sometimes and do a little research to understand that even in Genesis, there was a law already in place among the nation of the Israelites about harlotry. And you can find that in Leviticus 19 and 29. It says, do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore, lest the land fall to whoredom, and the land become full of wickedness. So they knew that this was a wicked thing. Now, one thing to point out as well is with these laws in the time and era that we're dealing with, Genesis and Leviticus and the Old Testament, many of them, they only knew the letter of the law. They didn't go by the spirit of the law, the principle of the law. Because Shechem, granted, whatever you may say or they may write, Shechem, the scripture says he loved Dinah and he wanted to marry her. He wanted to do the right thing about her. That was a good thing. I would subject that Shechem did not rape her. I would subject that Shechem fell in love with Dinah and wanted to marry her, and Dinah consented. And understand, the Canaanites and the Israelites, they're all really one family. They're tribes, but they are really one family. They're going back and forth. They're close by, And so I would say he was trying, the Moor was doing the right thing. He consulted his father to go and ask his father, can he marry her, right? But to point out that because they didn't go understand that the principle of things is higher than just the letter of the law, when they went and slew the people, right, they actually also broke the law in many ways themselves, taking the wives that they belong to, taking the wives, taking the cattle, taking all. Now we do know when you declare war, yeah, under those circumstances, you get what they call the booty and they carry it over. But in principle, right, they in a way are doing the same thing that they're have accused Shechem of. It's dealing still, again, with greed, right? And greed can cause these things, men to be slaves, can cause nations to fall, right? Can cause all these tragic things that come about a nation. Let's look again about Leviticus 19 and 29. It says, when you allow your daughters to be prostitute, right, and your land become whoredom, it becomes full, the land becomes full of wickedness. Look at our women today, brothers and sisters. Look at our women today, right? Look at our nation today as a nation, right? Within the United States, you see the spirit of harlotry, right? All around. It is the spirit of capitalism is strongly tied to the spirit of harlots, right? And so we have all that we have going on because greed, wantonness, never being satisfied. We have to put a circle around that. We have to ask ourselves, right, even within, right, self-examination. Am I moving in the spirit of a harlot? Is that thought that I'm dealing with in the spirit of a harlot, right? And if it is, put a circle around it. Cut it off. Bury it. You know, we want to make sure that we're moving in a way that we're moving in love, that we're moving on divine principles, that we're moving on things that have everlasting eternity rewards and benefits. And those things are principles that are based on the 5 highest principles known to man: love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. So one may ask, how does this benefit me? Well, it benefits you in a way to bring you salvation and keep you out of so much drama, to keep you out of so much confusion, to keep you in a place, in a state of heaven, right? Where you can not have to go through life wondering if such and such gonna retaliate against me because I got this item or this thing that I really wanted in a way that was ungodly, in a way that I shouldn't have gotten it, in a way that I cut off somebody and did somebody wrong, or did somebody, do dirt on this to get that very thing. You don't want to go through life living that way. So when that thought comes, like, when you have an opportunity, the enemy will present the opportunity, right? And the test will, God would allow the test to be like, okay, so you want that so bad, here it is, all right? But in order to get it, this is what you got to do. So do we want it so bad that we would give up our birthrights? Will we give up, and our birthright is that of to be righteous? Will we give up our entitlements of being divine representation of God on the planet Earth? Will we give that up, right, to get that very thing? If so, we are ourselves being the harlot. And because we're being the harlot, we have all these things and troubles that come upon our people, come upon our nation, come upon our family, come upon those around us and circle around us, right? because the spirit of the harlot, it always ends in death, whether it's mental slavery, whether it's physical death, whether it's spiritual death, whether it's closed eyes, closed mouth, closed ears, closed sense of everything to the things of God. So we want to be aware, have spiritual awareness when we know that we're coming across a situation or we come across a thought, right, that we can immediately indicate, man, that's the spirit of a harlot. Let me sit down. Let me get away from the situation, get myself together, so I may be able to maintain, stay on the path, stay on that blessed course where victory is sure. Right, this is S. Marshall. Hope something out of this you gained and you can, add benefit to your life. I pray that Allah bless you and continue to bless you in your journey of learning to be one with Him. Peace and love. See y'all in the wind.